it's Gordon here again. How are you? So, today I wanted to talk to you about stress, and that's probably one of the most common things that I see. It's something that, I think everyone experiences at least once or twice a week, maybe once or twice a day. And for all of us, we deal with stress very differently. Um, I know how I deal with my stress. You'll find people that will like to go to the gym. You'll find people that will smoke cigarettes. And you'll find people that will get angry. So I wanted to help you today to understand how stress is affecting you and how you can deal with this. Stress means many, many things for different people. For some people, it's because they can't go and meet family with this current pandemic. For others, it's that they're out of work, and for others, well, there could be a lot more going on. And I think with stress, it's just so important to understand how it's affecting you. So that's what today is about. And I want you to meet a friend of mine. His name is George. Okay. And George gets stressed over everything, as you can see. And I think we all have a little George in us. It's one of those things where he is there in the background. You might hear this voice sometimes saying something to you. And for me, I think if you look at the brain being being broken into four different components, if you were to look at the front part of the brain being like the marketing department, and it's about the big sell, it's about the how amazing things are. So for example, let's say you're about to go on holidays and you're going to go on the plane and you're going to go to your new hotel, and it's all exciting, it's all new, it's all wonderful. The left part of the brain here, that's your accountant, and she's very much about the numbers and the figures and the logic and the structure and the planning and how we're going to get there. Over here we have a wonderful, politically incorrect, but we have this wonderful hippie that's really calm and it's cool and it's great, man, and it's fine, don't worry. But back here in the back of your brain, we have our friend George. And the thing about George is that he's part of health and safety. And his job is to look after you, to take care of you, to look for problems. And for over 2,000 years, he did an amazing job. He protected you from tigers, from dinosaurs, from the Black Death. That was his job. And it's one of those things where if you look at how it's only the last maybe 50, 60 years where even for my grandfather, the most important thing in his life was to ensure that we had shelter and we had food. And that's all he cared about for my dad, that, there was a house and there was food every day. We now have, multiple chains of stores that there's food there. We can get it. We don't need to run around hunting it down on a daily basis. And we also have, most of us are quite lucky in that we have housing where we're covered. So if you look at a thing called Maslow's theory of hierarchy, which is basically the needs that need to be met, you'll find that the basic needs, the first level is food and shelter. We've met most of us have met those now. The next layer goes to the emotional space. And I think what happens is that if you look at how we've only been really dealing with this for a little bit of time, you'll find people getting anxiety. You'll find people getting stressed. You'll find people being depressed. What I'm always interested in is to figure out, and again, I'm not diagnosing anybody, but where is the underlying cause and what is the underlying emotion? So, for example, you'll find some people that get angry quite easy. You'll find others that get sad quite easily. And each of these emotions is really important because they're all normal. It's good to get angry once in a while. It's good to be sad once in a while. It's good to be happy once in a while. If you're constantly happy, that's not a good thing. You're ignoring the other emotions. And the most important thing to remember about these emotions is that it's appropriate. So, for example, let's say you found out on Friday that you're after winning the lotto and you're really angry about it. That's not a good emotion. That's an inappropriate emotion for that situation. The appropriate emotion would be happiness, I assume, not anger. So if you are feeling any emotions, just take a look at the emotion and say to yourself, is this appropriate from what I'm feeling right now? Is it appropriate for the situation, or is it an inappropriate emotion? And if you can do that with each of the emotions, you'll find very quickly that you'll understand why you're feeling them. You'll understand the triggers. And for me, that's the most important thing about understanding the emotion. Again, getting back to George, a lot of the time it's about telling him to shut up. Logical people spend a lot of time over here. Emotional people spend a lot of time here or here. And worried people spend a lot of time back here. So if you look at the 4 spaces, see where you're spending most of your time. Is it with George? Is it with your accountant? Is it in the marketing department? And that to me is an important factor. With stress, it's not the stress that's the problem. It's the body that's experiencing it. So if you can imagine, we have a deer, and let's say she's in nature, and a buck jumps out. Now, I always thought a buck was a rabbit, but actually you can have a buck deer as well. So if you can imagine, we have a deer in heat and we have a buck. They're in a field, and there's a strong chance that she's going to get pregnant. Now, let's change the scenario a little bit. We have the deer, we have the buck, and we have a tiger. What's going to happen? Immediately what's going to happen is that she's going to come out of heat. They're both going to run away as fast as they can. There's going to be a fight or flight component. But then, as soon as the situation stops, she goes back into heat. And that's because it was a very acute stress moment. It was a tiger. We're dealing with chronic stress at the moment. We're dealing with peaks of stress that are constantly on an hourly, daily, weekly basis. We're exhausted, we're tired, we're fatigued, we're not sleeping very well. Our emotions are all over the place. So if you think about that, I mean, of course you're stressed. Of course your partner is stressed. You might hear a lawnmower in the background. I do apologize. Hopefully you won't. So the thing is, it's the same world for everybody, but it's just how you see it and how you react to it and which emotion is attached to it. So it's really important for today's lesson to look at the emotion, look at the trigger, look why it's happening, and see, is it George that's kind of looking for a job to start freaking out? So there you go. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments, and I'll speak to you soon.